Hello Year 8 and welcome to this week's food technology lesson, and our focus is going to be on macronutrients, and yes, it is me, Miss Markwell, taking you through today's lesson. Okay, firstly, what on earth do these keywords mean? We have got the keyword function and we have got the keyword source. Now I want you to have a think now for about 30 seconds about a definition for these two keywords. What do you think they mean? Just think about it in your head. What's the function? What's the source? Okay, hopefully you've had time to have a little think. Well, let me tell you. The function is what something does. So we're particularly going to be looking at the function of nutrients. So what do them nutrients do in our body or do for our body? The keyword source you may have heard in geography is where something comes from, okay? So for example, where do these nutrients come from? Where can we get them for our diet? So those two keywords are really important to have a secure knowledge of. Now, today's driving question is as follows. We're looking at nutrients. Why are they important? And it would be really beneficial if you had some pen and paper at the ready, or if you had a laptop or whatever format you're going to be jotting things down at the ready. And if you could put the driving question at the top of the page now, please. You may want to pause the video to get it before I move on. Okay. Macronutrients, that was the key word at the start of this presentation, and it's popped back up again. So what on earth are macronutrients? Well, from this slide here, you can probably gather that macronutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. But what does that word macronutrients really mean? Well, if you break it down, just before nutrients, I wonder do I have a little pen or I get a little pointer? Just before that word nutrients, you've got this word here, macro. And macro means large. Therefore, if we put two and two together, we can work out that macronutrients are nutrients that are needed in large amounts. For example, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So this could be really useful to jot down. If you also wanted to jot down the knowledge on the keywords function and source, now would be a really good time to do that, Year 8. So just pause the video before I move on. Okay, we're going to have a little look at the first macronutrient, which is protein. And once again, we've got this keyword source. So where does our protein come from? Well, our protein comes from beans and pulses. And probably the most common sources are fish, eggs, chicken, and meat. We then have that keyword function. So what does protein do for our body? Well, protein is essential for growth. It's also essential for the repair of cells and muscles. As well as that, protein gives us quite a bit of energy. Okay, so those are the main functions. And you can see over here that actually soybeans are high in protein, and there's a little picture of soybeans. Now, Year 8, it's completely up to you. I've got a few slides similar to this, whether you write these down in your notebook at present, or I have an activity at the end that allows you to summarise all your knowledge if you wait to then. So it's completely up to you. So to help us understand protein, we're going to play this little video. So have a little watch. And if you pick up on any interesting facts, you might want to jot them down.
One of the 5 food groups is the meat, fish, and eggs group. These foods all contain a nutrient called protein. Some foods from this group that you might eat regularly are chicken, ham, beef, and salmon. It's not only meat and fish that contain protein. You can also find it in eggs and tofu, as well as in pulses such as lentils or beans. There are different kinds of proteins that do different important jobs. They are needed to help mend us when we are hurt and protect us from disease. They grow and repair our muscles, skin, and hair. And they even help us to breathe. Some proteins are like the building blocks of your body. They are what your hair, nails, skin, muscles, and organs, such as your heart, are made of. Other proteins help to protect you from getting ill by attacking germs or bacteria that might make you unwell. There are even some proteins that help you breathe by carrying oxygen around your body. Because proteins are so important to our bodies, it's important to eat foods from this group every day. Luckily, there are lots of tasty ways to get enough protein. Perhaps you like to have an egg at breakfast time, some ham and cheese in your sandwich at lunch, and fish for your dinner. What are your favourite foods in this group?
So hopefully after watching that video, you realise that actually maybe you do eat a lot of protein in your diet. It's definitely something that I eat a lot of. And maybe if you don't, you've now found out ways that you could actually include it more in your diet. Now, the next macronutrient that we're going to look at is this one, fat. Okay, so where does fat come from? Well, it comes from our things like vegetable oils, butter, lard, margarine, fat spreads, okay? These are more the oils and spreads. However, fats do come from things like donuts, biscuits, cakes, anything with these ingredients in them. So for example, a cake, you need butter to make, therefore a cake will have fat in it. Donuts you need butter to make, or you use a lot of vegetable oil as well to fry them, therefore they have a lot of fat. So it can also be foods that contain these ingredients here. So what does fat do? Well, quite frankly, it does help to keep the body warm. Okay, so the more layers of fat that you have, although they're not healthy, the warmer your body will be. Fat provides a lot of energy. And it helps to protect the organs because it creates a layer around that organ, particularly your vital organs such as your kidneys and your liver. So that is fat. And now I'm going to show you a little video about the science behind fat. And this is just a little link between science and food. And this is from the Gastro Lab.
I bet you. Now, people often talk about good and bad food, but the truth is there's no such thing. There's only balanced and unbalanced diets. Now, the stuff that gets the worst press is this: fat. Now, on the plus side, we do need some fat in our diets. Also, we've got taste receptors on our tongues, which are triggered by fat, giving us sensations of pleasure in our brains. On the downside, fat contains huge concentrations of energy, which is fine if you're really, really active and you're using that up. If you're not, you can start laying down reserves of fat in your own body, and it can lead to problems in the long term. Come over here. Now, for example, if I want to burn off the calories in a high-fat food, for instance, this bar of chocolate, I'm going to have to do quite a lot of exercise. I need to run 5.5 miles. 5.5 miles! Then again, if I want to take those calories in a different form, I might have to eat a lot more food, say lettuces, for instance. Here we go. So then those calories in lettuce form is about 9 lettuces.
I'm Johnny Cochran. I'm a comedian and TV personality. So I had to get that in because no one knows otherwise. I would say as a comedian, you're required to work quite long hours, like that go well into the night, so quite unsociable hours as well. Right, we're here at the venue. This is where the gig is tonight. I need to go and get some food because that's the first thing on my mind right now. So come in with me. I would say the most important meal of my day is probably dinner because it certainly would give me energy to go on stage and perform with. When you're a comic, you use a lot of nervous energy. No one wants to come and see a tired performance. And then I'm building up to my big crescendo at the end of double arm throw. Yeah! What I try to do is have one big dinner, and that should sort me out through the day. But I've got to be honest, sometimes I can lose control, shall we say, go a bit crazy, and I will stop into like a little burger shop on the way home. I would say my guilty pleasures in food would have to be a curry. Again, it is my favourite food, but I know it's not good for me as well. But I mean, it just tastes so nice. At the end of the day, I'm not afraid to have a little bit of fast food sometimes. I'm going to eat these on the way home, so catch you later.
Right, step away from the cake. Now, too much fat overall can lead to long-term problems, things like heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes. But not all fats are the same. Oh no, let's take a little look around. There are two main kinds of fats. Saturated fats are found in foods like meat, butter, cheese, cream, biscuits, and cakes. Naughty but nice. Unsaturated fats are found in foods such as oily fish, nuts, seeds, and avocados. Still nice and not so naughty, as they help reduce cholesterol and heart disease. Now, one of Johnny's favourite foods is curry. And here is a curry, a delicious chicken korma. But the thing is, people often say that korma's got a lot of fat in it. And I hate the way that people say things but never show you. So I thought, can I find a way to show you how much fat is in this chicken korma? Here's what we're going to do. First of all, I need to blend the curry. Here we go. So that's blended it a little bit. And now I need to add a solvent, which is going to start dissolving all of that fat. This is ethanol, really powerful solvent. Remember, don't mess with ethanol, flammable and an irritant. You have been warned. We need to separate all the solids from the liquids. Right, so I've given it a really, really good squeeze out, and this is what's left behind. Oh, look at the colour there. A little bit of water to that. It looks just like a bit of a banana milkshake at the moment. But if you leave this for 24 hours, it will look like this. Now this is disgusting but fascinating, because this section here is all of the fat. That is the unsaturated fat, the slightly clearer liquid, and this bright orange solid stuff at the top is the saturated fat. That's how much fat there is in one portion of chicken korma. It's not good, it's not bad, but it is a lot of fat.
Okay, little bit grocery, not gonna lie. But hopefully from that video you also learnt some new facts. For example, about the two different types of fat, the saturated fat and our unsaturated fat. Now, our final macronutrient that we're going to learn about is this one, carbohydrates, okay? And there's three different types of carbohydrates. You've got starchy carbohydrates, you've got sugary carbohydrates, and then you've got fibre, okay? Now, starchy carbohydrates come from the normal sources that you would associate carbohydrates with, such as potatoes, rice, pasta, and bread. And the main function of these starchy carbohydrates is to provide slow release energy. Now, that word slow release energy means that as the day goes on, so if you have a piece of toast in the morning, like say wholemeal toast in the morning, throughout the day, your body will release little bursts of energy to keep you going. Therefore, starchy carbohydrates get a massive tick from me. They are fabulous to have in your diet. We then have sugary carbohydrates, okay, and they come from your sugars, your syrups, your honey, your fruit juice. To be honest, things like cakes and donuts, because they contain sugar, will have sugary carbohydrates in them. And they provide fast release energy. Therefore, they will provide you with energy instantly, and you will feel great, and then you'll get what we call an energy slump. Okay, and then we have this form of carbohydrate, which is called fibre, and you get that from whole grain cereals, fruit and vegetables. And the main function of fibre is to keep the digestive system healthy. So quite frankly, I know this is pretty gross, but fibre helps you with your number twos on the toilet. That's what we need it for, and it comes from your whole grain bread, your whole grain pasta, your whole grain cereals. Now, to help build up our knowledge of carbohydrates, we're going to watch another little gastrolab on carbohydrates.
Okay, it's carb time, people, and these are big nutritional news because a healthy diet is supposed to get 55% of its calories from carbohydrates. Now, I know what you're thinking. These are just big, empty words. Calories, carbohydrates, nutrition. Show me something mind-blowing. So, that's my challenge. I'm going to make carbs interesting. Come down here, have a little look around, because all of these foods are packed full of carbohydrates, and some of them are brilliant to have in your diet. Let's hear from a sports star whose carbs are absolutely crucial.
My name's Jordan Wiley and I'm a Paralympic wheelchair tennis player. I won a bronze medal at the Paralympic Games in London. I recently won all 4 Grand Slams this year, which is actually a record. Food's really important because if I don't eat the right things, then I'm not going to be able to perform. And essentially it's my life, and food plays a percentage in that, because if I go on court not eating anything, I'm not going to be able to perform to my best. During the day, I eat quite a lot of carbs because it gives me a lot of energy. So training or matches, it doesn't really matter, I'll still be eating a lot of carbs, which is normally a lot of pasta. I train Monday to Friday, 4 hours a day on court, and then 3 times a week in the gym. I wouldn't be surprised if Andy Murray did exactly the same. My job does require a lot of energy. I could be on court for an hour to 3.5 hours, is I think the most I've ever played, and we can't stop the match halfway through just to go and have a bite to eat. So we have to have enough food inside us to last as long as we need it to last. We'll take on something that's got a bit of sugar in it for instant energy. But no, it's very, very important, because if I don't eat the right things, essentially I can't finish my job, then it's not good.
Jordan needs a huge supply of energy. Now, we get energy from 3 main things in our food: fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Now, fat and protein are all well and good, but they often come from foods that we shouldn't eat too much of. Carbs usually come from foods that offer loads of other great nutrition as well as the energy. Now, there are 2 main types of carbohydrates. First of all, you've got these fellas here, complex carbohydrates. Things like whole grains, wholemeal bread, rice and potatoes, that kind of stuff. Now, they're called complex carbohydrates because we have to digest them and break them down into the component sugars that they're made of before we can use the energy from them. On the other hand, you've got simple carbohydrates. Now, these have got their sugars in pretty much ready-to-use form. It's stuff like chocolate and sweets and fizzy drinks, all that kind of stuff. Loads of energy in them. But if you eat too many of these, you can be at risk of things like tooth decay and eventually further down the line, things like heart disease. So if you can, it's better to try and get most of your carb calories from these complex ones. Complex or simple, no matter. If you eat too many carbohydrates and don't get moving to burn off their energy, you'll be overloaded with potential energy, which is a polite way of saying you'll put on weight. I did promise that I'd make carbohydrates.
Okay, so we're going to stop it there. We're not going to watch this experiment because I do appreciate that. I don't want this video to be too long, but hopefully that's given you a little bit of an understanding behind carbohydrates. So that is the 3 macronutrients that are done. Now on the Show My Homework post, I have put up a template, and on that template, if you can access it, fingers crossed you can, I want you to make some flashcards on the 3 macronutrients. And a flashcard basically is like a little snippet of what knowledge did you learn on that nutrient. So for example, for protein, I might write little pieces of energy such as found in meat, found in beans, is needed for the repair of body cells, is needed for the growth of body cells and muscle. So I want you to write down little snippets of information. Now you can either use the template that I put up or just make your own flashcards, use your own template, and then why don't you get someone to quiz you on it? So why don't you go find a parent, find a guardian, find a sibling, and ask me some questions, quiz me, ask me some questions on protein, ask me some questions on fat. So if we could do that, and that brings us to the end of today's lesson, Year 8. So I hope you learned something new today. Please go on to Show My Homework now, and there is a 10-question quiz for you to complete, as well as a culinary challenge that you may want to enter. All right, goodbye.